1, 2, 3, 4.
And did you grow up with classical music as part of your life when you were a young boy?
Definitely. My mother was listening to a lot of like ballet music, Tchaikovsky, Stravinsky, Prokofiev, all the famous ones. And she was a classical ballerina for many, many years. That's actually how she moved over to Germany. She was originally born here in the US. And she moved over to start working at the Frankfurt company. And met my dad, got married, 3 kids, and one of them was me.
Mm-hmm. So that leads to the question, I'm sure we could teach almost anybody to play the violin, but can you teach them to be a great artist on the violin?
I wouldn't even necessarily say you can teach everybody to play the violin. I think you have to have somehow a physical ability to do it. You have to be able to, first of all, play a lot of things, memorize a lot of music. Additionally, you have to be able to kind of learn technical stuff very quickly, and shouldn't have stage fright. That's another thing which comes in handy if you're like calm on stage. So there are a lot of different aspects, and on top of that, of course, searching for your own voice on the violin is also something very, very important. But I think that comes later in the game, so to speak. I think the first thing, which is very, very important during the first 5 to 10 years, is really to establish, great intonation, great technique, just to master the instrument fully. And then afterwards, it's of course up to your talent in order to kind of develop your own identity.
So some of my young students or young crew might say, why is it important to listen to classical music?
Why is it important to read a good book? Why is it important to just enjoy the arts in general? I think it's something which balances your life out. I think music in general, good music, not only talking about classical, good music has, if you play or listen to it, either way, has a way of getting you away from, your daily problems. Like for me, if I have a bad day, bad relationship problems, or my parents piss me off or whatever, problems with my teachers in school, music was always something to kind of get me back centered, and basically was my priority to kind of get my life back on the right direction. So why is classical music important? Because I think classical music is as much a part of getting yourself centered as rock or pop. So I think I'm just for me it's very important because it's a huge part of music as well.
Well, when I was watching a rehearsal, there were no handlers or managers or musicians telling you what to do. You were the man. You were the guy that knows it's working or not.
Yeah. Well, I'm in charge, so I like it, I love it, but the downside is nobody's going to take the bullet for you. You're taking the bullet for yourself, and you better make sure that everybody knows, and everybody knows what you want, and kind of tell them, careful, too fast, you're in the wrong chords, blah, blah, blah. Just be very, very aware of everything. But I wouldn't want it any other way, because I think if I would give responsibility away, it wouldn't be as good in the end. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but it's just the inner instinct to really either put more work into it by myself and really have a great result.
Well, I think artists do that. They know what they want, and no matter what people tell them, they're going to do it.
And I do have to say, it comes out differently if you give responsibilities away. Mm-hmm. And I just hear it exactly that way in my head on that day, and I just have to kind of be, telling people exactly what to do. So it works so far.
Mm-hmm. And so, who is a person that can criticize your work?
There's certainly, I listen to everybody, even if somebody doesn't has much education. It's always good to listen. If you kind of change your perspective is a different point, but it's very, very important to always have an open ear to people telling you if they like something or if they don't like something. In the end, it's up to you how much you filter and how much you pay attention to something, because there's definitely a lot of bullshit which people tell you, and you should be able to say, okay, thank you very much, but no thanks. But Good comments can come from anybody. Doesn't have to be a great musician. Sometimes there's certain kind of truth in what's an audience member says when they come backstage, and you kind of start thinking about it. That's why it's very important to be very objective with the comments you take. I mean, it's a tough one to pull off, but I try most of the time.
Yeah, it's hard to know who to trust. Yeah. I agree.
Well, there are definitely certain key people, like people I've been working with as a kid, who have been a great influence on my musical development. So if they would say something, it would definitely mean something. I mean, I respect them a lot as musicians. If I play something for Ida Händel and she says, well, it's great how you do it, but I do it a different way, it doesn't mean I have to change it. She would never ever emphasize change something, because you have your own thing, but listen to what I'm doing, and maybe if it gives you a little bit of inspiration to see it in a different light, use it.
And do you ever play for those people in a class situation ever now, or is it just they hear you in concert and they talk?
No, I love to play for great musicians. Just chill out, just play for them. If you have a few minutes, never really just want them to hear me in the concert. The most fun thing is if you play with great musicians who do chamber music, is really kind of it's a different style if you play the crossover stuff, where pretty much I have to be in charge in order to make sure everything is right. But if you play trios or quartets, it's a different situation. It's a different kind of power balance, because everybody is a great musician. Everybody wants to put something in there, and you have to listen to everybody. So there are different situations when it comes to making music.
So there's the craft and discipline, but talk to me about the heart when you're in a chamber orchestra or you're in a quartet.
Yeah.
Are there 4 hearts? Is there 1 heart?
There are 4 hearts at first, and then hopefully if everybody starts listening and everybody has a certain understanding of when they're supposed to shine and when they're supposed to go back, because chamber music is really about making the music work and not being a great artist. There are a lot of really good musicians, or let's say really good violinists or instrumentalists who can't play chamber music because they don't know when to kind of take themselves back. That's also an art form, to really kind of let the music shine and not yourself. So that's very important in chamber music.
Because I was watching all your very talented musicians work on that as well, and that seems like a whole nother song or composition.
The thing is that I like people putting their input in, especially because they know exactly how they can play and they know exactly their skills on the instrument. For me to kind of dictate every little thing would not be the perfect result. So I like to give them a little bit of an idea what direction I want to go for, but I still give them the freedom to kind of show me what they can do with it. Especially when you have a formation of people who are actually used to playing jazz and used to kind of improvising. Who am I to kind of tell them exactly which note to play in which second? Of course, when you play with orchestra, it's a different story, because they're used to kind of playing from sheet music. So you do have to kind of make sure they know what they're about to play.
So I'm always curious, speaking of orchestras, why, it's going to sound very naive, what role is the conductor?
What role is the conductor? Is a negotiator between every party in the orchestra, and it's quite a huge responsibility if you do it right. You have to set the tempo, which is very, very important. You have to make sure that the various orchestra members are listening to each other and are playing off each other, as I said it earlier. And you have to, of course, make sure, basic stuff, that all the notes are right, but that's, with a good orchestra, that's not necessarily necessary. But I think the key part is really to kind of point out stuff which is written in the music, which people maybe are reading over or not aware of. Like dynamics is a huge thing with orchestra, because there's so many people involved, you really can't hear the whole picture when you play your own part. The conductor is there to kind of hear the whole picture and make sure if the violins don't really hear what's happening behind them in the brass, to kind of say, listen guys, you have to play up a little bit more. So like dynamics is, I think, one of the most important things as a conductor, to really be listening to everybody at the same time and making sure that the balance is right.
And that must be very interpretive, yes? And one conductor will conduct
Obviously,
it,
every person has a different, hopefully a different way of listening to music. So, that's, of course, you have to have a very strong opinion as a conductor, but I think every conductor has a different one. So I think it's good to have those, different characters.
Well, you want strong opinions, yes?
I think when it comes to conducting, you better have a strong opinion. Otherwise, everybody does what they want to do. And when you have 120 people, it might turn out quite chaotic.
It's all about them. Well, so when you're a guest violinist, what is there a term for that? When you're first violin? No.
No, well, soloist.
Soloist. When you're the soloist, is that ever a contentious relationship with a conductor because you think a piece of music should go a certain way and he thinks or she thinks another?
Well, here's the situation. I think in the ideal case, you have two good musicians, and they start working together, both of their ideas. And I've seen it in every possible way. I went to conductors who were entirely saying yes to everything and didn't really bring much to the table, which was okay. I sometimes like actually more when people actually tell me, this is good, but try this. Otherwise it's, just playing the music like I want to do it, and it's fine. But I like to have a little bit of something new. So, but sometimes it's also the total opposite, which also is not really, really good. When the conductor comes and he's like, okay, doesn't really ask me for the tempo, just starts conducting away, and it really happened a few times, and horrible. It's really not a good kind of situation, because in the end you have to kind of then put your whole interpretation aside and just follow the conductor. And then the conductor is the one who's kind of has the orchestra to follow, and the soloist, not making music in my universe.
But when you're the soloist, aren't you the star? Like in the movie business, you don't really get the chance to tell the
stars
what to do.
Yeah, but the director still has, the director can tell, exactly the people what to do. In the end, he is the man in charge, even though I have probably, it looks probably like I have the, more to say, but in the end he's in charge, and I respect that order. So in the end, of course, I prefer when there's really a good dialogue between the conductor and the artist, and that's how I feel what music is really about.
Yeah, of course.